50 years Treaty of Rome. Is the EU a success? José Manuel Barroso, EU Commission President.
Mr. President, the European Union has birthed now 50 years old or young as you like. It starts as a community of 6 members. Now it's a proud union of 27 member states. If you're looking back, what are the real main points of the success story of the European Union?
First of all, the European Union was, in fact, a great success because of peace. The original idea of the founding fathers was to make peace the rule and to make a war completely impossible. We should never forget that the European Union comes after the Second World War and comes for the reconciliation of Europe. But not only we have achieved peace, but we were expanding from 6 countries, the 6 founding members, to 27 countries. Now almost 500 million people. This is the greatest success ever if you look at the international politics of a union based in the free will of countries that have decided to join their powers, keeping their independence, but at the same time creating a new entity. And these countries are united around the values of freedom and solidarity. So I really believe that we should be proud of it, looking at the past with great pride, but also looking at the future with confidence.
But besides the birthday party, we have, of course, a little bit of kind of a midlife crisis if we are looking after the no of the French and the Dutch to the constitutional treaty. It looks like that the European Union is in a dead-end street. Is there any way out?
There are some difficulties, but I will not agree with those that believe Europe is in a crisis. Look, the situation we are compared with the situation Europe was some years ago. Europe was divided. Berlin itself was divided, where we are going now to sign the declaration. And now
it's a good place?
It's a great place, because Berlin is the symbol not only of reunified Germany, but a reunified Europe. What a better place could we have for marking this anniversary? So if we think in historic perspective, we have all the reasons to believe that we are a great success. But also, in a more pragmatic way, Europe is doing better now. Our economy 2 years ago was not so good as it is now. It's already recovering. We have still some unemployment, but it is the lowest figure of the last 10 years. We have investment going on. Our growth is already picking up. So I really believe that we should not overrate these problems.
It looks like that the people are tired of the European Union. Is it necessary to have a little bit less Europe than today?
I think the people are not tired of the European Union. I think people are now worried in many areas, also with their national institutions and sometimes with national parties. And there are some, let's say, anxieties because of the speed of transformation all over the world. So I think our duty, those who have some responsibility, is precisely to explain that Europe is part of the solution. Europe is not the problem. We need the European dimension to tackle the big challenges of globalization.
You, Mr. Barroso, as President of the European Commission, you try to convince the people with a Europe of results, as you call it always. What kind of results we have to imagine?
Look, as we have recently achieved an agreement for an energy policy in Europe, as we have recently achieved common goals to fight climate change. So this is the kind of Europe of results I mentioned, a Europe that is concentrated, that is focused on clear things for the citizens. We have to be pragmatic. What I believe, and it is obvious, is that in face of those global challenges, be it energy crisis or energy problems of supply, climate change, international terrorism, more competition coming from other parts of the world, we need a stronger Europe, a more coherent Europe. That's one of the reasons why we need also an institutional treaty, so that we have a more efficient decision-making way.
And do we need a greater Europe? Because the people are concerned about the enlargement. Is there any number you can imagine how great the European Union must be? 35, 42?
No, that's up to the different generations to decide. Europe is a political decision as well. But I don't think it's wise now to set borders, because the way borders are set, it's always a limitation. Let's make this Europe work. I believe that this Europe we have now, 27 member states, is much more influential than the Europe of the 12. I remember when Europe was only 12. I was then a young foreign minister. Today we count more. So an enlarged Europe is also a condition for a more powerful Europe, a Europe that can engage with the other international partners and defend our own interests and promote our own values in this globalized world.
Apparently the Union of 27 is working a little bit slow. How urgent we need a constitution or a constitutional treaty?
We need it as soon as possible. Precisely also because now we are 27 countries and some more can become members. And so we need the constitutional treaty for 3 reasons. To have a more efficient decision-making procedure, to have more democratic legitimacy and more transparency in the way the institutions work with the member states, and also to have more coherence in external affairs.
And you see a chance to get it?
I think there is a chance, and we are supporting very much the German presidency. The German presidency is putting all its commitment there, and Mrs. Merkel. And I hope that now with the Declaration of Berlin, we create a good momentum, that until the end of the German presidency, all the member states can agree on a so-called roadmap for the solution, but not only the roadmap, if possible, the framework for the solution.
Is the European Union a model for the rest of the world?
I think so. And I can tell
you... For the Middle East, for example?
Oh, I can tell you that in many areas of the world, they look at us with great admiration. Some of the worst wars happen here in Europe. And now, countries with great history, with different languages. Now we have 21 languages in the European Union. Countries like Germany and France and Spain and Italy and Britain, and also smaller countries like mine, Portugal, or even smaller like Luxembourg. How can you, respecting your diversity, at the same time be together in peace and in freedom? It's a great success, and it's a source of inspiration. It was a source of inspiration, for instance, for the ASEAN countries in Southeast. It is a source of inspiration for some integrations that are going on, unfortunately not with the same success we have in Latin America. It can be a model for a reconciliation in the Middle East, hopefully.
Mr. President, at the end, I would ask you something. Maybe it's a little bit strange, maybe it's a rare question. Looking back to the 50 last years, I was always asking me, neither the European Union as an institution, nor one of the great founding fathers like Schuman or Adenauer, nor one of the great Europeans we have seen in the last 50 years never get the Nobel Prize for Peace, even if this community is really a peace union. Have you any explanation for this?
Oh, you should ask that to the Nobel Prize, let's say, those people who are responsible for it. But I can give a suggestion. I think Helmut Kohl deserves that Nobel Prize. He was a man who gave a great contribution to peace in Europe for his commitment to this idea of Europe. We have many people in Europe that gave a great contribution to peace and reconciliation in our continent. The fact is sometimes only when they are gone we remember them, but we should praise them where they are still alive and having given us so good results for our Europe.
Mr. Barroso, thanks a lot for the interview.
Thank you.